All right, friends, I hope that you made it here safely and everything like that. We'll wait a little bit to see if we got everybody coming on. Um, Looks to me like there's 31 of us so far, which is great. Uh, you know, I know that there's people here for different reasons. Some of you are really curious about what the live workshop will look like in general. Some of you are really curious about acrylic paint. Some of you want to see who I am maybe, and then some people are even here as instructors themselves, and they're trying to kind of see what does this look like. So I want to do a good job of trying to help us because we're all kind of new to online workshops, right? Like you've maybe been to them before in different ways, but a lot of people have never really done a live online workshop. And so I'm going to try to help as much as I can. And okay, awesome. Well, I can see a chat down there. That's really cool. I'm actually going to see if I can make this. Okay, so that's great. I can see it on the side also. Um, yeah, so if you see on the bottom of your kind of Zoom panel there, there's a couple buttons down there. One, it says Q&A, one says chat. If you click on the chat, you can see over there some of the comments that people are making, and you can choose within that. You can say whether or not it goes to the panelists or to the panelists and all attendees. And so I would encourage you just to say all attendees as well, just because you might be asking questions that other people are asking also, and if we keep it all visible to everybody, that'll be helpful. But anyways, good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to be together. One of the things that I've really appreciated about what we do, because we started Acrylic University, which is all online, over a year ago. And so we have this community built that we actually can get together and we can meet. And we didn't realize how important it would be to have that kind of community until, really recently, where we're like, but that is our only community. We can't have people into our studio. We can't do these things. So it's pretty amazing that even though we're separated, we have this technology that allows us to come and do things. So my goal here is to give you guys an idea of what it will look like as we're, kind of showing you what the teaching of my actual workshop. It will give you an idea of what other workshops could look like too, although I don't know what everybody else's setup will be like. So for sure, it will give you an idea of what it will be like to interact. We thought that like having 39 people on here right now is too many to actually do a meeting. So we will have things that in the real workshop we can do that we are not going to be able to do right now, because it doesn't make sense to have 40 people on together on a team meeting. So, but during the actual live workshop, we'll have more interactive times when you'll actually be able to see each other on the screen. And when each person talks, you can kind of hear them and see what they're talking about. So that's just to say that this will be a little bit limited in what it will accomplish. Like there's more that's going to happen in the live workshop, but this will give you at least a pretty decent idea of what it will look like. And I'm going to switch the view here in a minute to show you kind of what it will look like here. But I wanted to open it up right now to say, if anybody has any really specific questions for, yeah, you can. It's in there. It's in. Our daughter came in. Yes, it's in the room charging. Our daughter came in looking for her phone, and not her phone, but one of our phones. And anyways, we are, I just want to give you the chance to ask any question that you have. One of the main concerns that I got as I was starting to reach out to people who had signed up early on, and they were interested in what would it be like, I was trying to get an idea of what are people hoping to gain, but also what are their concerns. And one of the main concerns that I heard from people was, how will I get that personal feedback? In a live workshop, when you are in the room together, the instructor, I would normally be walking around and I'd be looking at everybody's work and I would be commenting on it live in person right there. And that was one of the big concerns, was how is that going to happen? Or will there be anything like that that will kind of take the place of being there together? And so I just want to say that it won't be exactly like that, right? I mean, there's nothing that can replace me actually looking over your shoulder and actually, being able to pick up a paintbrush on your palette and mix a pile of paint there, that kind of thing. But we do have really good ways of providing feedback, and some of that is actually maybe going to be better in some ways, because you can send me your photograph. I will put them on my screen. Like, we would be looking at a screen that has your picture on it. I'll show you right now kind of what it won't look exactly like this, but for example, it could look like this, where I've got it wouldn't be a live painting like this, but I can be pointing out specific things through my with my mouse and with different things that I'm showing you. Now, this is a painting that I did live last night. So this is what my setup will look like when I'm doing a demonstration. It will look something like this, where you're going to be able to see, me pull colors out. You're going to see how I mix them, what it looks like on my palette compared to other colors. And you're going to see me be able to, paint right here live on this. So this aspect of the live demonstration, in my opinion, is actually probably better than a live workshop, because in a live workshop, there's a limited amount of room really close to the instructor, and some people have a better view and some people have a worse view. And so in this setting, you're going to have the best view. Everybody's going to have the best view of the canvas and of the palette, and be able to see exactly what's going on and exactly the colors that I'm mixing. So, but what I would love to hear is, like, some of your questions. Like, what are your concerns? If there are other concerns that you have, or other questions you have about what the workshop will be like, or anything else kind of related to this. Yeah, because I see Laura asks this. I have been painting in acrylic for 10 to 15 years, mostly without instruction. I'm missing composition and feedback. What brush and brush strokes to use, and more. Okay, well, I mean, I was actually going to give you guys, I'm going to do a very small demonstration later. Not really a demonstration, but a little something to give you as an exercise, because I think you could learn from this one little exercise that's quite helpful. But I'm going to show you right now my favorite brushes. I can't tell if this is backwards for you. Is that backwards or is that right? Okay, it's backwards on my screen. But these are Princeton Catalyst brushes, and they are my favorite brushes. I use all flats, and what I love about these brushes is that they're long bristles. So that's the flat. It's got a pretty long bristle. It's flat across the top. But what's really nice about these is that they're pretty stiff. Like, they're pretty strong. They push paint around really well. But the other thing is that they have this kind of technology where they took the bristles And I don't know if you can see it, or I mean, I don't really ever even see it, but at the very end, they make it like a split end. So they take one bristle and they split the end just a little bit at the very end, and it makes it soft. So it's this really great combination of being fairly stiff, but having a really soft end. And I've only used them for about a year. I was introduced to them last year at the Plein Air Convention. Somebody gave me some, and then randomly I met this woman, and she happened to be a Princeton. She works for Princeton, and I met her, a few months later, and I've never met her in person, but I met her over the through a group on the internet, and she realized that I was an artist and asked if I wanted to be a spokesperson and like to be I don't know what you call it, like an ambassador for Princeton. And I was delighted because I already loved these brushes so much, and so I have no problem at all saying these are my favorite brushes. I totally recommend these. Laura, if you want to look into these, they're really great. I use a range between size 4, so this is a size 4, and it goes up to a size 16. And then I have a couple other brushes. I've got a couple, like this is a round brush. It's size 2. So I use a couple smaller brushes, but I mostly stick with the flats that are between 6 and 12. And then I have the 4 and the 16 that are a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. And Renee's actually putting a link there for you guys if you're interested in seeing what they look like. Now, your other question was on composition and feedback, or you feel like you need that idea. And so this course, of course, the one that I'm doing right now with the color workshop is going to be mostly about color. It's going to be about how we can work with color to make it really interesting and vibrant, and yet work together. Because it's one thing to be all crazy with color and make it look like sometimes in the end it looks like we're living on Mars or something like that, where it's like alien world and the colors are so bright, but they're all bright and they're all out there and they're all crazy. But it's another thing to bring them together and to actually have bold colors that work together, that are harmonious, and they create something that you want to look at, and you want to you can imagine it in the real world, and it doesn't look like it's a foreign kind of alien world. So those are the things that we're going to really be working on here, and I think that it's going to be super helpful because I've discovered a few things that I go, wow, I didn't even know this not that long ago, and now that I kind of have wrapped my head around this, I'm able to teach it, and I've seen how it's very helpful for a lot of people, just because we don't need to, a big part of it is just working with a limited palette, and yet like understanding the way that these colors work together so that we can push them in the directions that we want. And so that's what this is going to be about a lot. But yeah, go ahead, Renee.
How will we get your imagery, photos, or video using cell phones?
Okay. Yes. Okay. So how will you get your images to us, photos or videos, using cell phones? So my plan is that we'll have the Zoom meetings that we can, if you have, this is what I'd say, you're going to need to have a laptop or a phone for me to be able to interact with you. If you have a computer that's a desktop, you need to have a webcam, like a dedicated webcam and a microphone for it to actually be able to work, that you can talk and I can hear. So if you have a laptop or a phone, download the Zoom app for your phone. You can get your laptop, because it will automatically have a, that's what I'm using right now is my laptop. And it's going to have, the webcam built into it and everything like that. So that will work very well. And there can be some live kind of, hey, this is what I'm working on. Like I can hold this up to you like this and I can see it, you can see it pretty well because it's like this. So there's going to be some of this where when you're working on something, my idea is that I'll be able to see what you're working on just by you holding it up. But the other way is when we have completed assignments, yeah, you'll take a picture of it, you'll upload it or email it to me. I'm going to work on the details of that exactly, because I might be able to get a place where you just upload it into a form that I can see. But worst case scenarios, you'll have to email it to me or text it to me or something like that. But I'll be able to get the images and then I'll put them into my computer so that when, like at the end of the time when we're together, because I think part of what makes a workshop really great is that you can interact with each other too. I mean, you learn from me maybe, but you also learn from each other. And so I'm really trying to be thoughtful in how we have those kind of interactions, and we can hear what the questions everybody else is having. And so I think that we'll be able to figure some of that out so that we can have a couple of times where we're all together, we're looking at the same things, and we're able to comment and talk and ask questions at the same time, looking at each other's work, looking at my demonstration, looking at other things that will be helpful. Let's see, is there any other question? How long is this mini class going to run today? I came in a few minutes late. If this was already covered, I'm going to try to be done by 10:30 with this little thing today. This is not really designed to be a class so much, or to teach, as much as it is to let you see what it will be like for you if you choose to participate in something like this. And I want to say two things. There's we have two ways that you can, because we're all kind of trying to figure out, we've got at least another month of like complete isolation in this. And I feel like this is a really great time to have art as a hobby, as something that you love to do, because you can do it in your home, in your living room, right? And one of the things that I love about acrylic paint is that this paint is totally safe. Like there's nothing toxic here, and there's nothing that you need to mix it with. Like you don't need thinner or anything like that. I use this and I don't have any reactions to it, even though I use it. I've used it in the past on our kitchen table, like when we didn't have a studio or anything like that. And so yeah, Renee has a question for me.
Kayla asked, will this course be suitable for an absolute beginner?
Will this course be suitable for an absolute beginner? And then
Lee, as a beginner, will I be able to participate usefully, or is this more of an intermediate class?
Okay, a couple questions about is this for a beginner, or do you have to have more knowledge? I'll tell you a couple things. I would say if you are a complete beginner, what I would suggest is there might be another workshop that Cole does that is better for a total beginner. I don't think that this is really complicated. It's actually pretty simple in some ways, but if you need instruction on like more like where you need to, if you don't have supplies, for instance, or if you really like need, I would recommend, one, we have Acrylic University. That's what we do. Like this live workshop is going to be 2 days, and because there's so much interest in it, we're probably gonna split it up. And if you want to get in, you need to sign up like right away, because there are a lot of people who have expressed interest. And so just make sure that if you want to do this, that you sign up right away. But the other thing is that when this closes, I'm going to give you a place to go where you can sign up for our acrylic university. And we have a joint venture with Cole Art Studio where we're making an offering that is like, we normally don't allow people to just come in anytime, because we want to have people come in at the beginning of the month and then kind of work through stuff. And then at the next month, we open it up again and we let people in. But because we're doing this joint venture with Cole, we're allowing people to come in. And so you have an opportunity that the general public doesn't have. So I just want to encourage you with that. And the other thing that I'm doing as a kind of like helpful promotion is I'm going to give my 2 favorite brushes. I have, because I'm a ambassador for Princeton, I'm going to give to the first 5 people who sign up for the workshop, and the first 5 people who sign up for my acrylic university, I'm going to give you my 2 favorite brushes, which are this is a number 10 Princeton brush, and I have a number 6 Princeton brush, and we'll mail both of you for those. So you just have to, it's all about time. But anyways, I'm trying to make it fun. I'm trying to make it, where you have some extra incentive, because these are really great brushes. But if you're a total beginner, I would recommend actually becoming a member of Acrylic University, where you're going to have not just 2 days of a workshop, but you're going to have a year, or as long as you become a member. We have an annual membership that's available for you through Cole that we don't even offer that. We only offer monthly memberships. And so you could become a monthly member, or you could buy the annual deal, and you could have a full year of art instruction. And basically it's a lot like what you're going to get in the workshop, except that there isn't the live interaction while you're going through what you're going through. But we do have a live Q&A every week where you get on our community and you can ask me questions, and it's flat out. I have no qualms. I mean, we built this, and I don't think there's anything else like it on the internet, to tell you the truth. I'm like, I can only tell you how much effort we put into it every stinking week. And so the workshop is going to be taking it up a notch, because it's going, hey, and we're going to give you personal attention. What's your question right now? Where are you at? Let me take a look at your painting. Let me take a look at that. But if you're a beginner, I would say you're going to be better off stretching that learning into a longer term thing. And you can do both. But if I was choosing one as an absolute beginner, I would say become a member of Acrylic University, because it will give you more long-term instruction. And that, as for where you're at, I think it would be more beneficial.
And Cole Gallery has beginner acrylic classes too.
Yeah, exactly. I think, is it Angela Bandurka, I think, runs some. I think that they would be much better suited. If you're a total beginner, go to Angela Bandurka. She's got some great courses that are specifically designed for a person wanting to learn acrylic painting in this kind of live setting. So if you want to have that interaction, Angela, I think we've only met one time. And but I know that she is an incredible instructor. And Denise was telling me how organized she is, and how much thought and attention and detail she puts into everything that she does. So I would highly, highly recommend that. And so you just want to go onto the Cole website and look for those workshops that are coming up, because I won't have a direct link to them, but you'll be able to find that. Okay. Yeah, I see something else. Angela has beginner oil too, and Discovery Series is going online, and it is a great intro. So there you go. So there's a lot of different options. So I'm gonna just Okay, so Daniel's asking if you don't have some of the same color paints that are listed for the course, will that be a problem? Getting supplies is a little difficult right now, so are there any substitute colors to use? You know, honestly, you don't have to have the exact same colors. The colors that I chose are there because they're ones that I know they kind of work a certain way. And I'll show you, actually, I'll show you why I chose what I chose here real quick. Okay, so we have a color wheel, and if we're like thinking about what colors do, having a general knowledge of how this works is helpful. And this is kind of the rationale behind the colors that I have in the course. So I have cadmium red, medium, and there are other options besides cadmium. You can get hues and different things that are going to be less expensive. But like I basically have a blue that leans towards red and a blue that leans towards yellow. So this one is a little bit more towards green. This one's a little bit more towards violet. Then I have red that are, this is quinacridone red right here. And it leans more towards violet, and cadmium red leans more towards orange. And so that's kind of the way that I've done this, because with when you're working with a limited palette, you can actually create so many colors out of just 3 colors. And so this is another example. This one is choosing 3 of those colors. This is cadmium yellow light up here, ultramarine blue, and quinacridone red. And seeing like all these colors that we can use and come up with. And what I love about this is that this is where you get freedom in color, because there's no color that looks out of place. There's nothing in here that looks ugly, because if you mix any of these colors and put them, you can put any of these colors next to any of the other colors in this color, you know, chart, and they all will read well together. They all will look good. And so whether or not you have quinacridone red isn't as important as the idea that you have a limited palette. So that's why I'm saying to you, Daniel, that you don't actually have to have the exact color that I'm talking about. You can have a different yellow and a different blue and a different red, and you can still learn a ton of the same exact principles. You just wouldn't learn exactly how the color that I'm talking about would work, but you can learn exactly how that color that you have would work and interact with the other colors. So I hope that that is helpful. And yeah, so we got another person saying, Angela Banderka is great. So I expect or assume Margaret has taken a workshop or something. So like there are other incredible instructors at Cole, and so we're going to be kind of like going through this season together, right? And there's going to be a lot of learning, a lot of growth, but I just encourage you to not hesitate to participate in these classes and in these workshops, because they're going to be really fun, and they're going to be a great way for you to take advantage of this weird time where we don't have the ability to do as much. And so you can actually focus some of your attention on something like art, and you can grow a ton during this time, and it won't be as caught up with everything else. So I will do a small demonstration of an assignment that I think would be kind of fun for you to do, but it's not really a painting. I'm not going to do a demonstration of a painting. I'm going to show you something about the way that colors work. But before we do, I just want to ask if there's any other questions that you can throw out there in the chat. And let me see, I've got a couple things in the Q&A. Can we verbally? No, you. Okay. to cover these color wheels more in depth in the Acrylic University. So yes, Martha, we cover these very much in depth in the we have a course called Color 101, and it goes through. That's where I made these color wheels. Let me see what other questions there are. Trying to figure out the interface, and I don't see a mute button for my microphone. Can we verbally ask questions? So yeah, I'm just gonna say I answered all those live. Any other questions? Throw them into the chat, and we'll all see them over there and answer them. But if you don't have any other questions, then what I'd say are these things. I'm going to do this small little exercise with you. I would love for you to when this is done, just make sure that you are quick in registering for the workshops. Like I said, I'm going to give you guys, if you are one of the first 5, you'll get 2 brushes, the 6 and the 10 flats from Princeton Catalyst that I love the most. And if you are interested, if you're a total beginner, look at the other workshops like Angela Banderka's workshops that are here. I'm going to put at the end, when this closes, you'll end up on a page that will have a direct link to my registration page on the Cole Art Studio place, and it'll also have a direct link to the joint venture that we have with Cole Art Studio for Acrylic University. So don't hesitate about these things. And I don't see any more questions. So if you need to go, this is your chance to go. I'll spend another few minutes here doing a small exercise that has to do with the way that these colors relate, and it's quite simple, but hopefully it will give you a little bit of an idea of how this can kind of work in your own world. It doesn't matter if you're an oil painter. It doesn't matter. I mean, watercolor works a little bit differently, so I can't speak on watercolor, but oil or acrylic, like these colors are going to work this way. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to switch over to my other camera, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, so like what I said before is that if you have any of these colors right here, like if we're using a limited palette, and for this, really what I used was quinacridone red, which I'll explain this more, but you always want to pay attention to the list of colors on the back, the code that's on the back of the tube of paint, because your colors might have a name on the front, but on the back they have a code that you can read, and it will tell you, like right here it says PY37. So PY37 is cadmium yellow light, and this is actually called cadmium yellow lemon, but it's the same color. So you always want to know the number is more important than the name, because the name will change depending on the brand. The brands, for whatever reason, have made up their own names sometimes, and quinacridone red is not a trustworthy name, but PV19 will always be the same, and ultramarine blue is PB29. So the main idea here is that if you have 3 colors and you have white and black that you're kind of using with them, you can create a huge, vast number of different colors, different tones, different shades, different things that all live within the same family. And the reason that they work together is because they end up being related, and that's why I say they're like a family. And so one of the exercises that I like to have people do is to take a blank canvas like this and to do an exercise that's kind of like this, where it doesn't have to be a big canvas. I mean, I use very small ones here because I didn't want to take too long, and I didn't want to waste too much paint. Even though it's not a waste, it's an investment of paint. But here's quinacridone red, ultramarine blue, and cadmium yellow light. And you can see how they mix a different range of colors than this. This is phthalo blue, cadmium red, and cadmium yellow light. So same yellow, but two different colors down here, right? We've got a different red, a different blue, and you can see how these mixes up here in the greens are quite different. And these mixes down here are quite different, because when you mix these colors, this does not make such a vibrant purple as this does. And this doesn't make such a vibrant green as these do. So that's kind of the idea behind this. And so the exercise is simply to do this. You want to take your primary colors, and if you think of it, you can put your yellow up at the top. I like to think of it like the noonday sun. And then I like to think of the red as about 4 o'clock. Because on a color wheel, you go 12, 4, 8. If it was a clock, those would be the numbers for where you want to put these. And then we'll take our blue and we'll grab this right here. Now I can teach you more about the like this setup, which is super great, super helpful. But if we have this, then what we can start to do is we can start to mix some of these colors together and see what happens. So I'm starting to make a range between these and I can do the same thing here. And you can see that this is not as purple as the one that had quinacridone red in it, because this red is a little bit more towards orange. This red is similar to cadmium red, but it's technically called pyrrole red, this particular red. But it's not mixing as bright of a purple as the quinacridone red would, especially when it's mixed with it's called pyrrole red. And then if we did the same thing over here,
An ultramarine blue.
an ultramarine blue, yeah. We're going to mix up our orangish color. And one of the things that you'll notice if I hold this up here again, is that you cannot mix an orange that is as bright as cadmium orange. And so like these colors that go around on the outside of the color wheel, that's where colors start to look alien, is when we get too many colors that are way, way, way out there on the color wheel. but when we mix them together, it brings them into more of the center of the color wheel, and they become related, and they come, they look like they're part of the same family. And so then what I like to do with this exercise is basically take, now that we've gotten those things established, is just to start mixing any color. And I kind of might try to live within like where these colors are at, but I mixed a little bit of white in with my color, and I just start moving around. I start adding more different colors. If it's starting to get a little bit more orange, I'll start moving a little bit this way. And I don't try to make too many brush strokes. I try to keep it kind of simple. In the middle, I'll probably have more grayish colors. And then on the outside, what I might do is take my color and mix it with a little bit of black to start getting some different shades that are deeper and darker, and see what happens with that. So all of this is to help you understand, how do these colors actually work? It's one thing to have a kind of like theoretical knowledge, but this is where you start looking at and you start getting more of a practical knowledge of seeing, oh my goodness, look at all these colors that I can mix. Look at how interesting these colors are. You know, I mean, you add a little bit of white to that and it becomes this really cool grayish color, right? There's such variety within 3 colors, and you work your way around and you start seeing all these variations and all these things. And the coolest part about it is, like I showed you on these, is that, oh, here, I've got another one actually that's a little bit bigger. You look at this and there's not one color on here that, in my opinion, doesn't work, that doesn't look nice, that doesn't read like it works together. And that gives you a lot of freedom to say, I mean, that's what I always challenge people with is, okay, do this exercise and try to make what you might call a muddy color. Muddy colors are not colors that are the color of the earth, because these are very earthy colors. But muddy colors are when you have colors that do not work with the other colors, and then they look like they're out of, you know, they look ugly. But in my opinion, when you have a limited palette like this, you can have absolute freedom to mix and match and try different things, and you will get these incredibly beautiful colors. And this is, have a question?
Oh yeah. Jennifer Hayes says, do you use any mediums for mixing? And it's almost time for that.
Yeah. No, I know. I gave people an out a little while ago. But Jennifer asked, is there any mediums? No, I don't. I just pull straight from there and I mix on this Stay Wet palette. And every once in a while, I mean, I shouldn't say I don't use medium. I have some medium right here, but I don't generally have medium on my palette. I'm not mixing with it. The times when I use medium are when I'm doing a glaze or something like that, where I need to thin it down and I want to retain the adhesiveness with the medium. So if you want to do a fun exercise, what's really great about this is that you can choose all sorts of different colors. Like I have this little one that has quinacridone, or this is cadmium red, this is phthalo blue and cad yellow light. This is quinacridone red, ultramarine blue, and cad yellow light. But this one, I decided to switch it up a little bit more, and instead of using a real red, I use burnt sienna as my reddish color. And this is phthalo green, or phthalo blue, and you can see how you could try this with all sorts of different colors, and you might not ever really want to use this if you're painting flowers because you're not going to get a really bright red. But maybe for some painting, this would be a perfect palette. And, you know, like some of the old masters used very, very limited palettes. They didn't have much color at all, but because they understood the way that these work together, they produced these incredibly beautiful paintings. And anything is possible with the limited palette. You can do so many amazing things. So
how do you prime your canvas?
okay.
And they're asking about the Stay Wet palette.
Okay, how do you prime your canvas? This is just an unprimed canvas. I mean, it's I bought it this way. Normally I buy, so I'm going to give you guys as many good answers as I can right now, but I'm also not going to be able to stay forever and do this because we've got a lot to work on. But, and if you want these, you need to come to the real workshop. But this is a Centurion universally primed linen painting panel. This is like my go-to thing that I buy. All of these resources you can find on Acrylic University. We've got supply lists and stuff like that for every course that we ever make. We have a supply list that goes with it. But this is my favorite thing to paint on pretty much anytime because it's got such a nice surface. If I'm painting a large canvas, I use a stretch canvas, and actually I think I saw Lee on here earlier, and I did I'm working on a commission for them, and it's on a panel that I custom cut because it had to be a specific size. So when I do that, I'll use something like, let me see if this is I gotta find my gesso here. So this is my big container of gesso. This is Utrecht's version of this, but it's a very thick kind of gesso. It's I'll see if I can show it to you. You can see it's not really much of a liquid. It's more like a paste, and it's really nice. I like it a lot. It retains a little bit of the form when you put it down. And so if I was painting on an unprimed canvas or a panel, I would put down several coats of this first before I paint. But most of the things that I get are already primed. Like this was primed, and then I painted over a dark paint because I like to paint on dark surfaces sometimes. And actually underneath here is a bad painting that I painted over. So there you go. Any other questions that came in? Oh, what paper surface did he use in this demo right now?
Oh, I answered.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, well, I don't know if I see anything else, but we will stay on here for a couple minutes and answer any of the follow-up questions. But make sure when you log out of here that you go register right away for the workshop. You sign up for Acrylic University, or you go to coleartstudio.com, and you find one of the other workshops like Angela Banderka's or any of the other instructors. That would be great, because look, we're all in this together, and this is one way that we can really connect and have a good time together. So I look forward to seeing you in class. And remember, the first 5 people that sign up on either the workshop or acrylicuniversity.com, we will send you 2 of my favorite brushes from Princeton. Love you guys. Hope to meet you soon, and have a good rest of the weekend.